If you look at armies, they spend an awful lot of time marching together. They tend to be accompanied by drums and rhythmic instruments. They fly flags, they blow trumpets. They call themselves things like brothers in arms, okay? And that's because bravery isn't something you can actually generate through a conscious act of will. You can't just say to yourself, okay, today I'm going to be really brave, because bravery is an emotion. It's not it's not really under our direct control. However, what we can do by wearing uniforms, by calling our fellow fighters comrades in arms or brothers, by blowing trumpets, by beating drums, we can just create the conditions under which we're more likely to act and feel brave than we would be if we were just left to our own devices, if you just had a scruffy army of people who'd never met each other and who didn't call each other brothers in arms and who just said, today we ought to be really brave and for the following 5 reasons, okay? Because you're not really rationally brave. Bravery is an emotional state which is driven by something you can't control, like your heart rate. It's not within your direct control. And then we got to this point of actually advertising is to some extent a trust placebo. That it may be the case that simple human beings didn't evolve to a state where it is natural for us, without some sort of environmental prompting, to just trust complete strangers to conduct barter and exchange. If you think about it, the really weird thing with capitalism is the extent to which we actually do trust other people. I put my daughters, who are 15, into a taxi cab in London, driven by a total stranger, okay? And yet that level of trust that it seems to exist in successful societies is really, really remarkable. And so I think it's a really interesting question, which is that does advertising actually exist to persuade, or is there a necessary level of bullshit that we need to generate before our unconscious can be primed to trust something? In a world where you had perfect information and perfect trust, think about it, you wouldn't need marketing or advertising at all, because people immediately knew about everything and they knew exactly what they wanted and what they're prepared to pay. So there would be absolutely no need for marketing and no need for advertising. So if you wonder why people in finance tend to look at advertising and marketing as if it's a cost rather than a source of competitive advantage or a source of value creation, which it is, okay? That's why. And so, just to go on to the next thing, there's a few economists, rogue economists, Austrian school economists, don't make that mistake. This is Ludwig von Mises' defense of advertising and marketing. Sounds a very strange defense, right? By the man who sweeps the floor, he means marketing and advertising. Now, let me just explain, okay? In a restaurant, there's no sensible distinction to be made in a restaurant between the value created by the man who cooks the food and the value created by the man who sweeps the floor. The point is, one person creates the food. Without the food, there isn't much of a restaurant. I freely admit that. But the willingness of people to pay for the food and the ability to enjoy the food depends on the state of the restaurant. If you had Michelin-starred food served in a restaurant which smelt of sewage, nobody would enjoy the food and nobody would pay for it. And what would be the standard reaction, I suspect, among people who are economically trained is, we need to drop the price of the food. No, get rid of the smell of sewage.